What is up, y'all? It has been far too long. Give a couple minutes for folks to get in here before we kind of dig into it. There's that. Cool. Well, see, at least one person is here, so welcome. Gonna give at least a couple more minutes for people to trickle in while I attempt to get on the highway without dying before we dig into it. So, welcome though. Hope you're having a good 2021 so far. Feels weird to say. Thank you, Brian. Also, what's up? Just using the front cam on my iPhone. So, what did I get? A regular iPhone 12, I think. So, nothing crazy. But yeah. Anywho, this is probably not going to be crystal clear. Nice, good to hear. I do like the new phone. Definitely a upgrade from my. I think I had an iPhone 10 before, and it was showing its age a little bit. So, actually, I'm pretty sure this is the first one I've done since I got the new phone. Anywho, so I wanted to talk about a couple of things today, and I've had a lot of conversations with Brian / Ilpad, with Luke, with Bill, and with some other people over the past few weeks, and it is something that I struggle with a lot myself, and that is the idea that, as strange as this may be, like, failure is an option, is kind of the best way I can think of to distill this down. I very much have the perfectionistic genes in me, and this kind of, like, it feels kind of like I can very easily get myself in a win or go home type of mentality sometimes, especially on the lanes with something where I'm very highly proficient, like bowling, where I am one of the big fish in a lot of tournaments that I go to that are local. And I don't know, I feel like I kind of have slipped into that mentality some of, if I'm not winning, that I'm failing. And I know I've talked with Ilpad many times about this, is that's not necessarily a healthy attitude to have, and that's is something I'm working on getting better at. So I guess, God, I could probably rewind all the way back to September. So I'll kind of talk through some of my tournament results over the past 4 months. Just kind of briefly explain kind of some of those, because there were times where I didn't necessarily succeed, and kind of how I felt in the moment, kind of how I'm trying to approach things now. So rewind all the way back to KC Open. This was back in mid-September, I think. Yeah, mid-September. And so in a couple different houses on House Shot. Nothing crazy, not a high number of games, not a ton of people on the pair, and I'd been throwing it pretty dang well all summer, striking a lot and making a lot of money. So I walk out, I roll into Kansas City Open with my gear. I'm like, all right. Oh, and the night before I just shot 790 subbing at Royal Crest. So then I walk in for KC Open, and I'm like, all right, throwing the ball great, striking a lot, ready to kick butt and take names and win money. And yeah, I did none of that. Very much, I don't know. It was, you can, if you go back, I live streamed the team and the double singles for that, and you can definitely see I was putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on myself mentally, because I felt I definitely had that mentality of I'm either winning or I'm failing. And I remember even game 1 of team event, I think I went started out playing the lanes wrong. I went 2-pin spare, washout, barely missed it, and then struck through the 9th frame. And then I'm pretty sure it was my first shot in the 10th. I just my feet got away from me. I gassed one, and I think I left a 2-7. I'm pretty sure. And even though I still had a great game on the table, I made the split, and I struck on my fill, which got me to 246, I want to say. 246, 244, somewhere in that range. Mid 240s. Really solid game, especially considering it was a center I'd never been to before. And so I throw this shot. It's not the best shot off my hand. I knew it needed some help. I walked away with something I could fill the frame with and still get a really good game out of. But I wasn't really it wasn't I don't know. It's a difficult thing to balance, because on the one hand, I didn't strike, which wasn't the optimal outcome. But at the same time, it could have struck. It would have needed some help to get there, but it wasn't completely out of the question. And rather than being well, I threw a really bad shot and just left something I can make, fill the frame, move on. Yeah, I may or may not have walked back and hard spiked my astrophysics into the floor through my roller 3 times in a row. So yeah, that was not my best. Well, that whole KC Open weekend was not my best moment. Also, the pin carry at Lunar is absolutely terrible. That place sucks. But even with that, there was still this pressure of this mentality of, if I'm not winning, then I'm failing. And then that same thing kind of happened again when I flew back out a couple weeks later to Wichita, when I bowled Swiss trios with Riley and Bo. We had a really solid team together. I knew we had a lot of potential to do some pretty serious damage over the course of the weekend. And I come out and I don't remember exactly what I shot day 1. I've got it all in the pin pile on my phone. Pretty sure I went minus 150 or more for 6 games, which is not very good, especially considering I knew it was a hittable pattern. And it was that same feeling. And I managed to kind of build on it and to grow over the course of the weekend and get better, but at the same time, it was still kind of, still even now, it's hard to kind of suppress those feelings of I failed because I didn't bowl well. I was low man on the team by 200 pins over the course of the weekend. It was not close. It was kind of hard to suppress to even now I still almost kind of feel like I let the team down. I bowled bad, and I bowled bad for a whole multitude of reasons that are beside the point of this stream. But I don't know. It was still very much I succeed or I fail was kind of the mentality, essentially. I was still trying to learn as much as I could out there, and I did learn a lot that day in particular, that weekend. Learned a lot about myself and kind of how I should be managing transition in a setting like that where we are moving lanes every game and you're not getting warm up and following different people every single game, yada yada yada. So then what ended up, so that's Swiss Trios. That was in September. Didn't bowl a whole lot of super notable stuff in October through December, honestly, that I can think of, at least. What did I bowl in that time frame? Oh yeah. So bowled a mixed trios event down in Myrtle Beach, and the format was you bowl 5 games on the same pair, so it's a total of 30 bowler games on a pair of lanes, something like that. And it's a house where I knew I bowled very well in the past. And I think my blocks were like 1220, 1080, 1280. I think are the three blocks that I bowled. My last block was 1281 or 1283, which is the highest set anybody bowled all weekend. But it was very much like, especially after that, the middle of the three blocks that I bowled was, I knew I wasn't seeing the lanes right, and it kind of like, I lost a lot of money that squad because it was, I get in a lot of brackets, and then I bowl a couple of really bad games during the bracket games, and there goes most of my investment right there. So that was, I don't know, it was an up and down weekend. I ended up walking out with a solid solid positive mindset, but even those bad games were still kind of dragging me down, if that makes sense. And so, that was another case of that. And then I fly back out to Kansas City again, and there are some other tournaments I could probably dig into, but it's kind of, I don't know, I'm already 10 minutes into this, and I don't want to spend more than probably 45 minutes before the sun goes down and I lose all my light. So then I fly back out to Kansas City again over New Year's Day for the triple header that Dave Laswell and Mike Adamski ran at Aaron's and Olathe in Kansas City. Day one, I throw it great. It goes great. Only a quarter of the field in a scratch tournament went plus for 8 games. I shot plus 90 and barely missed a step ladder. Really, really solid day of bowling. I think I missed one makeable in 8 games. Got myself out of trouble aside from making the turn and one really hard pair. And, put up some really good, really consistent numbers all day. So that one, I did succeed on the lanes, and so I was able to, obviously, it's easier to keep a positive mindset when you succeed. Obviously, water makes things wet. Details at 11, whoop-de-doo. Then I come back the very next day, go to a different center, bowl on a pattern that should, in theory, be about equally difficult. I don't even remember what I shot, but it was bad for the first 4. It was like 150, 180, 140, 140. Like, I was buried after 4. Like, in an 8-game block cut to the top 8 field of 90-ish, I was straight up buried. I think I might have been red leader after 4, which is not good. I'm not texting Virginia, shut up. I'm not touching my phone. See, both hands are right here. So then I come back on Chromium the next day, and I had absolutely nothing for the first 4 games, and you can see it in my body language. And, again, I live streamed all this on my channel, so it's kind of out there for you guys to see already if you want to go back and reference this. This was the hangover singles. The second day we bowled, had absolutely nothing for the first 4 games. But I was pressing, I was like almost kind of just tensing up, pressuring myself, like I remember some of the self-talk I was saying was like, I am better than this, was kind of the mentality in my head. And again, that's kind of deriving my identity from my results almost. And that's what it all comes back to, in my opinion, is like, you have to, is getting your identity from the process, from what you're doing rather than the results you're getting, because your results aren't always going to be good. That's something that is going to happen sometimes, honestly. And like, even day 2 to day 3 when I was out in Kansas City, day 3 was doubles that I bowled with Riley on the house shot at Aaron's. It was an up and down block. I think I got to plus 150-ish maybe. No, not even that. Because I averaged, 211 for 8, so that's plus 100. And in 3 of those 8 games, I went a combined plus 170. So the other 5 were rough, and I struggled with transition management. But again, it was one of those things where the frustration was from the fact that I felt like I was throwing decent shots, but the results weren't there. How is it so bright outside for you? Sunset isn't for another 40 minutes. The sun's still up. So what I've been working on, I know Luke talked about this in his Rise and Grind stream from a couple days ago. which I will link down in the description below once the stream is done. He and John were talking about this some in their stream on Friday, and I think that's kind of, I guess this is almost my own spin on that idea, is there's a quote, and I've said this sometimes. No, Virginia, I'm further south than you, dude, by a lot. There's a quote that I read, and I forget who wrote this article, but it was in Bowling This Month. It was probably about 4 or 5 years. Yeah, see, that's the sun right there, Virginia. It was in Bowling This Month, probably 4 or 5 years ago, if I had to guess. Maybe more, I don't remember exactly, but when sometimes you learn. And the idea is when you succeed in terms of your results, that's obviously a good day. But when you don't succeed in terms of results, there's still things to be learned. And it's almost this kind of different way of approaching it, of this idea of like mental resiliency is, you know, you step up, you make the best educated guess that you can on what you should be doing. Step up, you make a quality shot, and then you go back, look at the results, and figure out what you need to change, what you need to do better next time, if anything, or if it's just step up, throw that same shot again, and you know, assume you're probably going to get a better result. It's a little more like pragmatic way of looking at it, and it's, I don't know, it's very ironic for me to be preaching this because I'm really, really bad at it, and I'll be the first to say that. It's like I'm not good at dealing, like failing. It's like, you know, I just bowled a team rankings match with my UBA team down in Charlotte, and I shot, what are my games? It was like 2-teen, 190, 250, and the guy I was bowling against, I was head to head on the singles pair, so it was just 1 versus 1 scratch. The guy I was bowling against went like 170, 2-teen, 260. So I mean, but here's the thing: is it was a center I'd never been to before, so I was coming in blind very much. But even with that, it was still, yeah, I was learning from every shot. And even though I ended up losing that pair, and I just found out we lost the match, unfortunately. Yeah, I am frustrated that, because I know looking back in hindsight, there were things I could have done to bowl better. But in reality, like, I came in blind. I made the best guesses that I could. I think I missed the pocket 3 times in 3 games. I missed 1 makeable in 3 games. And, you know, I wasn't doing the perfect things to score ideally. If I had, I would have won, but I didn't. And I could have won, but I didn't, essentially. And so it's almost this idea of, oh, the other thing I was going to talk about is, as of, 2 weeks ago today, I think, or was it a week ago? 2 weeks ago? Something like that. 2 weeks ago. Last Sunday of December, so 2 weeks ago. As of 2 weeks ago, I unfortunately am no longer the Southeast Heavyweight Champion for UBA. Lost that match in 5 games while winning total pins, by the way, to a guy who just, he had a better ball reaction than I did. And I knew going into the match, because I had COVID a couple weeks before and I was rusty physically, I knew I wasn't throwing it great, and I knew I would need some help to win. And I threw it as well as I could have, and I struck a lot, but I didn't win the match. And it's like, you know, it sucked. It was frustrating. It was a little bit discouraging. So it was like, well, I'm not the Southeast champ anymore. But at the same time, it's almost, it didn't hit me as hard, if that makes sense, as other matches that I've lost, where my identity was on the line, if that makes sense. It's like, I knew, I was a little more comfortable with the idea of, you know, I say what you will about this mindset, but I knew going into that match that there was a decent chance that I wouldn't be able to scrap together enough of a ball reaction to win. And, you know, I mean, I scrapped together literally the best ball reaction I could. Shot, 1248 for 5, 1246 for 5, something like that. I averaged like 250 for 5 games. I'm lost. And I'm looking back and I'm like, you know, I had a couple of oopsie shots that cost me. And other than that, it was just a matter of like not getting that small extra hit just like once or twice a game, like once a game in 3 games, and that was the difference in the entire match. So I don't know. It's this. I don't even know how to kind of put a bow on this idea, but it's like the idea that success is not necessarily winning is one that I think a lot of people, including myself, and I'm looking at myself in selfie mode right now, get better at this. Get better at understanding that winning is not success. Or success is not necessarily winning. Success can be winning. There's other ways to succeed. I mean, even, you know, I'm hoping to get out and actually bowl a couple of regionals this summer, in addition to still making trips out to Kansas City, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 times this year. Because there is a chance for me to learn to get better. And so in those situations, again, that definition of success is not necessarily winning. Because while my goal is to win, that's not like, and that'd be the ultimate success. You know, if I go out and bowl a regional and win it, that is the ultimate success. But I can still succeed without winning, if that makes sense. And that success might be different things, and it's kind of something I have to do a better job of thinking about within myself. Is like, you know, coming into today, I knew that the place we were bowling was a trickier center. I knew I had never bowled there, and I knew pin carry could be a little rough. So my goals were, you know, just step up, make quality shots, and fill my frames. And I missed one 9-pin, but that was just literally a fluke where my ball hit a wiggle spot that I hadn't seen all day. So I missed that. But other than that, my only opens were, let's see, I 2-10'd twice, and I 7-10'd either once or twice. Those are my only opens in a 3-game set. It's like, I can't really be mad about opening on a 2-10 or a 7-10. And so, you know, in that context, I mean, my shot making was really solid all day. It's just the lanes were tricky, and I didn't really find the right thing to do to be able to give myself miss room until later in the match. But even with that, I was still making quality shots. I was, you know, keeping my head in the game mentally, you know, not getting down on myself too much, not beating myself up for, you know, small mistakes that I made, and just kind of, you know, one foot in front of the other, keep my head forward, almost like keep my head down, keep my head forward, focus on the task at hand. You know, not saying to ignore past shots, but they're data points to be viewed more dispassionately towards future endeavors, if that makes sense. And that's something that I need to get better at. And that's, the better I get at that, the better I'm going to be in these like higher pressure type situations, because then it just becomes, I know who I am as a bowler, and I know if I follow the process, I'm going to succeed, you know, finish well more often than I'm not. And if I get out-bowled sometimes, then so be it. So, let me try and catch up on a few comments. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Let's see. Gosh, I've been going for a while. John Lander, mental game is definitely more difficult to keep positive than the physical game. Yes and no. I get what you're saying, but I think they're both kind of their own push-pull in their own ways, and kind of how they feed off of each other. And it's like, Kyle Troop is a really, really good example of this, I think, where he's very good at keeping himself pretty positive mentally, but he does kind of ride the wave of emotions a little bit. And you can kind of see that in kind of the way he just walks around. If you watch him during the course of a block at a tournament, is like, you get that little kind of extra strut in your step, and that kind of extra bit of confidence, and that extra confidence actually can free up your delivery, free up your swing, which then is going to make your shot making better, which is going to give you more confidence, and it's a vicious cycle of awesomeness, essentially. So the mental game and the physical game can kind of feed off of each other, and if your mental game is there, but your physical game is a little rough, then you can pull yourself out of it. But if your mental game isn't there, then even if you're throwing it great, then it might not last. And if they're both not there, then have fun spiraling down into the depths of despair, into the pit of misery, dilly dilly. So that's, I don't know, yes and no. If you have the mental game there, then you can kind of claw yourself back. So I do agree in that sense that if the mental game isn't there, it's harder to kind of pull yourself out from a rough spot. So yeah, that's fair. See what else. Mental game gets neglected far too often. True for every sport. Agree 100%, Brian. YouTube Jeremy, what's up, man? Good to see you. Virginian, yada yada yada. Yes, I know you're north and east of me. Whatever. Your face. Sometimes losing can actually be winning. Match versus Kyle back in July. Yes, I agree. That was one of those matches where I wasn't super upset about losing because I maximized pretty much everything I could on my side, and he just straight up outbowled me. And that's kind of, again, that is going to happen sometimes. Most fun live streams I've watched in years. Yeah, that was a very fun match to bowl. Kyle's an awesome dude, and I've bowled against him a couple times since then. Just in coming up against him in tournaments. Honestly, I'm really excited to see where Kyle's career goes. Because I know the age gap is only, 7 or 8 years, but I really do believe that Kyle is going to be one of those, like, super visible ambassadors for the sport long term, kind of in the same sense that Belmo is right now to a certain extent. Obviously in his own way and with his own brand, his own flair on things. But I mean, Kyle's an awesome dude, really personable, great to talk to. And he's just a normal guy, and that is awesome. Yeah, that's a great dude. Great to talk to him. And he knows what's up. Try to not die here. Okay, I think we're good. What up, Scotty? Teach me how to cash more in tournaments. It has to be a secret. Yeah, there's actually there's a website for that. And you should definitely check this out sometime. It's www.throwabetterball.com. So that should have everything you need to know right there. Now, jokes aside, I know Bill and Aaron and Nilpad have talked about this in Luke's server, which I'll include a link to join Luke Rosedal's Discord server, which is called Storm Nation. A lot of these conversations happen over there. And there's a lot of really knowledgeable folks who love to help out other bowlers in that server. It's a great community. Love being a part of it. Again, like, getting better at tournaments isn't necessarily about winning. They can be some pretty expensive lessons sometimes. That's what a lot of my trips are to Kansas City right now is, I flew out for a triple header. I lost $700 just in the tournaments. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat because I learned a lot from those 3 days of bowling. I don't know, as far as like how to get better on a personal level, it's hard to say really. It's all about like, whenever you go to a new center or a center you bowl at some but not super regularly, it's almost about just building up a knowledge base of how to adjust to what you're seeing in different environments. And as you get better, as you build up that knowledge base, then the success will come essentially. And kind of how you get to that point is more about making sure you have like when you're at home, it's about practicing, things you aren't necessarily good at, making sure you're able to make quality shots in different situations, being able to shoot spares, being able to adjust. Heck, when I'm at home in Raleigh, right now, I bowl league in 3 different centers. There's another 1 or 2 that I practice at. So it's like, just in the last week, I've bowled in in the last 2 weeks, I've hit 6 or 7 different centers. And that's just within an hour of home. And it's that same deal as, when I joined UBA, started doing more stuff traveling for that and traveling to tournaments, is getting out of just your one center. Makes a huge difference, wherever your comfort zone. Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is honestly the biggest thing to get better. And as you do that, you'll start to see results. So I'd say that's my biggest advice is keep at it. One other bit of advice that I've gotten that I think is really, really beneficial for a lot of people is, tournaments will have a bunch of side pots and stuff like that, but don't put more on the line, or how do I say this right? Don't put money on the table for a tournament if you're not 100% comfortable losing all of that money. It was like when I flew out to Kansas City, I think I had just over $1,000 with me for the tournaments. And that was the conscious decision that I made, was that, I'm taking this money out here with the hope that I succeed. I'm essentially investing in myself. But, if I lose this money, then so be it, essentially. And you're not to say your number should be the same as my number, just like my arsenal is going to look different than Luke's arsenal is. Everybody's answer to that is going to be different. But the bigger thing to take away from that is, like, if you're only putting money on the line that you're comfortable losing, then that's going to kind of help relieve some of that pressure and let you just kind of go out and free swing it and go do your thing, essentially. That's another big thing that I've kind of learned that helps me in tournaments. Is like, I'll walk into some tournaments and I'll only put a couple hundred down total because it's all I want to do that day. Or heck, I'm bowling a memorial tournament this coming Saturday. Instead of center, I bowl very well at. I'm averaging 232 in league there right now. But it's a memorial tournament for a good friend of mine who was on my old UBA team. He passed away from, I don't remember exactly what happened. It was essentially some autoimmune stuff combined with pneumonia and some other crap, and all that piled up. And he unfortunately passed away, I think earlier this year. Good friend of mine. I saw him every week. Like, one of those guys who always brings a smile to your face whenever you see him around. And so there's a memorial tournament happening this Saturday for Vince at Village Lanes over in Durham. And I'm gonna show up like I'm gonna put a little bit of money into I'm gonna pay my tournament entry, and I'm gonna pay in for side pots just in case I have a big set, so I can make a little bit of money back. But I'm not playing brackets at all. But that's because I know myself, and as strange as it sounds, I'm not bowling to win this tournament. I'm bowling this tournament to have fun and in memory of Vince, because I know that's what he'd want. And so it's kind of that different mentality of, like, making money is great, but it's not the be-all, end-all. Winning a tournament, placing high in a tournament is great, but it's not the be-all, end-all. And it's almost like, I'll link this down in the description as well, is Brad Miller posted, this was in the 2020 U.S. Open, I believe, the one that was in Nebraska, the Belmo one. And Brad was just straight up buried coming into the last couple of rounds of match play, had no chance of making the show. And instead of being frustrated, instead of being down, instead of being, feeling like he was a failure because he couldn't make the show, he was like, I've had a pretty solid week, and this is an amazing chance for me to learn, so that's my metric. And honestly, if you can go out and do that every time you bowl, then the successes will come, and I think that goes for a lot of people. So anyways, I hope that helps a little bit. I know it's a very long-winded answer to a very short question. Ron, mental and physical games go hand in hand. Hard though to find the balance some days. Yes, for sure. And then Brian, Kyle is and will be a healthy and positive ambassador for the sport. Agreed, for sure. Kyle's an awesome dude, and I'm excited to see where his career goes from here. A lot of promise. I think him breaking through and winning I think his win at the Tour Finals was huge for him as a bowler, and winning in what else did he win last year? It was Jonesboro and doubles, I think, were the other two titles he won. So, monster year for him on the lanes. And he's clearly leveling up physically and mentally, even week to week, which is awesome to see. And I think he's he's going to go places, and that's really cool. That's really cool to see. So, I got 15 minutes till sunset. Gonna shift gears, I guess, unless anybody else has any questions or other input real quick before I move on from that. Bomo, Kyle, Brad and Kyle, bowling has amazing representation to the world. Agree 100%. What Brad and Kyle have done with their channel is pretty special. I think that's going to be a template for the next generation, whoever that may be. Kind of the community and the enterprise essentially they've built up over the past few years. And again, seeing both of those guys level themselves up as bowlers, I think is going to be really positive for them in the future. Especially Brad. I remember the first time I saw Brad bowl was actually the first time I ever saw Prather bowl. It was when they had both made match play at the 2016 U.S. Open. Ironically, at the time, both were on Motive staff. And I was like, oh, these two guys don't have a ton of rev rate, but they still get it done. Kind of Bill O'Neill type bowlers. And just seeing how they've leveled up and kind of gotten themselves into, I guess, how do I say this, more prominent places within sport. And I think Brad's the chairman of the Players Committee now. That being in that position, I think is going to be, as they kind of rise up to take the mantle of kind of being this next generation of stars. I think seeing what some of these guys can do with their games on the lanes and with themselves off the lanes, I think it's going to be really cool to see how that maturation process and how they grow into that. So going to talk gear for just a minute before I shut this down. It's about to get dark, and I'm close to the bowling alley. I'm headed up to Greensboro for league. So number one, haven't had a chance to throw the Proton Physics much. I know I referenced this in my review. That ball is super strong, and I just don't need that much ball pretty much ever. RST is still a monster. God, my voice is dry right now. RST is still a monster. Actually used that some today in the rankings match. Used it quite a bit out in Kansas City as well. It's a really, really good step-up ball from like a Phase 2 or a Axiom, but without being like over-the-top strong like a something like a Proton Physics, for example. So it's like a nice blend of like strength, but not like over the top. So it's got a wider range of use. So I've been really loving that ball. Idle synergy. I think I'm starting to figure that ball out. I'm gonna try and use it some more this week. Hopefully, shoot video for it and get that out next weekend. So I know I'm very, very late on that. The synergy released the end of November, I want to say. So I'm late. I told you guys I was going to be late. It's just I haven't had much time to actually sit down and throw it and learn it and get used to it. I've gotten some games on the cover. I changed the surface a little bit, and it's kind of starting to settle into something. I don't know. It's not necessarily something that I like because it's kind of clean, but also really, really slow down lane. But it's something that I'm at least starting to understand, and that was the main reason that I didn't make the video at release along with the RST and the Proton was I didn't understand it, and I didn't feel like as a result that I could do a good enough job to communicate what that is or what the ball was to properly convey that to you guys. So thankfully I've got some more time to practice now because I'm cut back to 3 leagues a week now instead of 4, which in retrospect 4 was probably way too many, so oops. So I'm starting to learn it, starting to figure it out, so that video will be coming soon. I also actually just got a new camera, so the video quality will be going up quite a bit on my review videos. Got a Sony A6400, which is a mirrorless DSLR, so it can shoot in 1080 60 frames with a pretty high bit rate, which is going to be a huge quality and smoothness upgrade over my old camera, which is 7 years old and shot in 1080 30 frames and not a super high bit rate. So looking forward to getting that out. You'll see that new camera and the new footage with the videos for the Idle Synergy and also for the Rubicon UC2, which releases on January 29th, I believe, last weekend of the month, last Friday of the month. So that is a ball that I'm really looking forward to trying out. It's literally a pearl cover Rubicon is what it is. Same core, pearl version of the same cover, and just shiny instead of 3000 gray sanded. So, and I was actually sitting there when Luke was shooting the video for his UC2 review. It back ends a ton. So I'm kind of curious to know where it's going to fit in my bag, but it looks like, I don't know, it's going to be a super boomy ball, kind of, I don't know, I almost get nuclear cell vibes from it, just in terms of down lane recovery, just not quite as overblown, just because it's not quite as strong of a ball as the nuke. So, I don't know, I have some different ideas of where that might end up, but I'm definitely looking forward to throwing it. Hoping to get that ordered tomorrow. They've been having some issues with the website and the ordering portal. So hopefully I get that done and get that in my hands soon. Hopefully going to get that out by release day, so I'll keep you all posted on that front. A couple other balls that I've drilled recently. Y'all probably saw the drilling stream over on Luke's channel that we did over New Year's weekend. That pin and middle finger all-road that we drilled up has actually been a lot of fun to throw. Used that a little bit today and a lot in Kansas City last weekend. It's kind of in between the Phase 2 and the IQ Tour Solid for me, without really being either one of those. It reads earlier than the IQ, kind of almost reads in the same spot as a Phase 2, but it's much more like lopey and smooth off the spot rather than, a little more, pick up and go and really tumble through the pins like what the Phase 2 can be sometimes. So it's still trying to figure out exactly where it fits in my bag and whether contextually it makes sense to carry all of Phase 2 all-road IQ Solid, or whether I can kind of pare that down a little bit. But, I mean, it's a high road series ball, like, just freaking awesome. So it's been a lot of fun to throw. I'm going to take it in with me for League tonight at Triads, so that should be fun. See how it does there. It's one of those balls that just kind of always, it's one of those almost kind of benchmarky type balls for me, where it's always in play at least. And it's very predictable to kind of, as a baseline, to kind of figure out where I need to go from there. So there's that. Triad is my area. Go back to the triangle. Brent, I will be after League tonight if that works for you. So, yeah, I don't know if you're bowling in the Captain and Crew League. If you are, come find me and say hi, though. So, yeah, I'm out here in a good chunk of weekends for tournaments. And then obviously Bowling League out here this fall, which the drive from Raleigh has been a little rougher, especially going back than I thought it would. But it is what it is, and I've already made enough back in brackets to pay for the entire league, so that's fun. Would you say that Axiom and the Phase 2 are close enough to not need both? Yeah, in most situations I probably would run. I think the answer depends a little bit on context, though, and that's because, and I touched on this a little bit in my review video for the Axiom, is yes, they are very, very close to each other in a lot of respects, but the Axiom can almost feel a little punchier down lane, while the Phase 2 picks up and rolls a little bit earlier. And so there have been a couple of times where I've taken, like the mixed trios tournament that I bowled down in Myrtle Beach, I took my Phase 2 and my Axiom with me. And what I actually did for that was I intentionally ran my Phase 2, and I think that had the same layout on them. So same layout, same general idea from the two balls, but I ran a little more surface on the Phase 2 to make it a little earlier, a little smoother, and then I let the Axiom kind of lane shine a little bit leading up to that event, to kind of embrace it being a little more, feeling potentially a little more boomy down lane versus the Phase 2. And that was because I knew I was going into an environment where I needed to play in and play the puddle all day, and that playing the friction was generally not a good idea for me based on past experience in that building. And so in that sense, yes, it worked out, but if I'm being completely honest, at the end of the day, they were close enough to each other that I could have left the Actium at home and gotten by with the phase 2 and kind of manipulating my hand, manipulating my ball roll a little bit to kind of bridge that gap. So maybe, but again, it depends on context. I think I saw another comment from you. I have a Crux Prime, a phase 2, and a High Road X. Looking for the next 2 to 3 balls to complement them. Rubicon UC2 might actually fit in there really, really well because you've got a bunch of smoother stuff. The Crux Prime is obviously really smooth, ditto for the phase 2, and the High Road X can be boomy down lane, but it's kind of the smooth boominess rather than like being more aggressive. So something like a UC2 or maybe a phase 3 possibly, something along those lines, something that'll get down the lane and then boom a little more off the spot might be really, really good. I mean, it depends a little bit too on rev rate and what else, speed and rev rate, and what else you feel like you're missing reaction wise. I could definitely see something really boomy being in play. If you need something really, really weak, then maybe look at a Hustle Ink or maybe one of the Surges, especially the hybrid cover Surges. I think it's the black and red one. What's up, C Lance? How you doing, man? Yeah, that's a really good starting 3. There's still a lot of different things you could do to possibly fit within that, but something boomy or something super controlled like an IQ2 or Solid, or something weak like a Ink or a Surge. Electrify Hybrid for weaker? Yeah, I mean, the Electrify Hybrid's a good ball too. It's just, I don't know, I think the Ink, especially now that they're making it back in the Utah plant and it's a little punchier down lane again, I really do think that the Ink is unbeatable at the price point right now. That goes for literally every brand right now on the market, because I don't think anybody can beat the value proposition for medium dry lanes that the Ink provides right now. If you're looking for something in that realm of strength and the Ink isn't like really, really high on your list, then honestly, I legitimately believe you're doing life wrong. I mean, I've got basically, I could drill whatever I wanted for my bag, and my weak ball that I've got in the trunk and I'm taking it into league tonight is my Ink. The new one that I just drilled that came out of the Utah plant. So I don't know. I think, yes, there are other options out there, but the Ink is just so good for so many people that I think you really got to take a look at that. So yeah, I'd do more than think of it, honestly, if I were in your shoes. Like, I've been preaching that ball for 4 years now. It is literally that good. So, anywho, sun's going down. About to lose my light. About to go to bed here. All right, sounds good, C Lance. Hope you're doing all right, man. Hope things are going well over in Sweden. So, yeah, I'll leave the stream on for a couple minutes. If any of y'all have any other questions or thoughts or comments, definitely fire away. Otherwise, I'm about 10-15 minutes away from the center. Do I notice a major difference between the two inks? I haven't actually thrown them side by side yet, but yes, I have. The Texas ink, which is the darker blue one, and they're same layout, by the way, so that's pretty much a controlling factor on that front. The Texas inks, Ron, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I might live stream. I might do a league session sometimes, or sometime. I don't have my battery pack with me tonight, and I don't have my car charger either. So, yeah, my phone's struggling right now. So definitely can't do it tonight. But yeah, I might do that sometime. I don't know. I do try to live stream tournaments when I can and when I think of it and when it works out. So definitely try and do more of those. Shoot, what was the other question? What was I just answering? Oh yeah, difference between the inks. Shred the Rack. Do I notice the difference between the Texas and the Utah inks? Yes, I do. This is from throwing my Texas ink side by side with other guys who have Utah inks, or throwing my Utah ink side by side with someone else who has a Texas ink. So they both hooking about the same spot, but the Texas inks are just a little slower and a little more like not as punchy off the friction, definitely more rolly and controlled and straight, almost straighter off the pattern. I think the Texas inks are a little better from straight. My Utah ink seems to be kind of more of what I remember from the original ink. It almost feels like a more controlled High Road Pearl to a certain extent, whereas I can play right with it, but it's really, really, really good when I get further left and just kind of slow wheel and let the ball do the work and let it kind of wheel back to the pocket. Kind of similar to a High Road Pearl, just I'm able to control it a little bit better. How do you tell the difference? It's essentially the color. If it's like this navy, like IQ Tourish blue, then that's a Texas ink, which that came out of the old 900 Global plant in San Antonio. And if it's a brighter, more electric blue, that came out of the Utah plant, which is Storm HQ. So it's the same core, it's still technically the same material. It's the same material and all that, but there's a little bit of a difference in how they roll. So even the Texas inks were really good, but I don't know. I think I kind of forgotten a little bit how good the Utah inks are. So that's got to be on the short list, man. Boomy, rolly, flippy, punchy, all these terms. Not really listed that I'm aware of. I don't know. There probably should be a bowling glossary somewhere. Flippy means that it's got like a really sharp, like big directional change. Boomy is kind of flippy but smoother, essentially. What were the other ones you were asking about? Flippy, punchy. Hang on, I want to make sure I don't miss my exits. I'm going to that GPS right now. Yeah, I think I'm good. Wait, am I in the right spot? I think I am. Yeah, I think I'm good. I don't know, punchy is just kind of tumbly, but a little more defined. If you watch the Axiom versus the Idol, it's kind of a good illustration of what I'm talking about, where it's kind of punchy. The Idols or the Axiom's a little punchier down laning through the pins, versus like a little more defined, a little more aggression, but not a ton. And then Rolly is just really smooth and forward and controlled and literally rolling and like not doing anything super aggressively, if that makes sense. Like something like a phase 2 is very rolly down lane, as an example. Very early, very smooth, very rolly. So I don't know, I hope that helps a little bit. Definitely hit me up on Discord if you have further questions on that front, and I'll try to answer as best as I can. Usually order from Bowlerax, wonder which they have. My guess is most places have the Utah inks at this point, because they made the production switch. They moved all global production back to Utah, which included the ink back in March, April, somewhere in that point. I think I missed my exit. Crap. That's not good. Yep, I missed my exit. Oops. Alright, let me pull over somewhere, find a posted, check my GPS, figure this out. I'm going to have to turn the stream off, guys. I do apologize. I am slightly lost. I'm in a town I don't normally go through, so oops. Probably everybody has Utah inks at this point. And just due to shipping and getting it quicker, I ordered mine from buddies, and it was a Utah pour. So they've been pouring them in Utah since April, I think. So it should be Utah in most cases at this point. You can probably request it too and just say, ask for something that was poured after April, and you should be fine. Do I think Storm will make a Parallax Pearl? Possibly. I am not sure. I don't know. It's kind of a mixed reception on that ball, similar to the spec stuff, so we'll see what happens. Anywho, I need to get unlost and get to League, so for now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I hope you've enjoyed this a little bit and that you've at least learned a little bit from it. So yeah, keep an eye out for more videos coming soon, and until then, good luck and good bowling. Peace.